Tonight we go deep. 3 caving stories that start with confidence and end in chaos. 1 wrong turn, 1 missed warning, 1 moment underground where everything falls apart. Viewer discretion is advised. Fantastic Pit, inside Ellison's cave in Georgia, is the deepest freefall drop in America. 179 meters of nothing. On November 20th, 2021, Dana Kirby and Ray Bolter rigged it in dry weather. Rain forecast 6 hours out. What they didn't know: cold water moves faster than forecasts. Dana was 30 years old, athletic, precise, 4 years on rope. Ray was 40, stocky, calm, the club's rigging instructor, a man who had taught knots to half the cavers in Georgia. They had trained together every weekend for 2 seasons. His daughter called Dana the apprentice. Here is what you need to understand about Fantastic Pit. It is not just deep, it is plumbed into the mountain's drains. A small stream falls the entire drop beside the rope line, and after rain, that stream becomes a fire hose falling 600 feet. Cave water in Georgia holds 12 degrees, and spray plus wind chill can strip a hanging human of 1 degree of core heat every 15 minutes. The descent went in on schedule at noon. Ray dropped first, 40 smooth minutes to the floor. Dana followed, spinning slowly in a shaft so tall her light could not find either end of it. If you have never hung on a rope in a space like that, understand, you are a spider on a thread in a cathedral with no floor lights. At 2, they started back up, Ray first, and that is the moment the trip stopped being routine, because the storm had arrived 4 hours early, and the dry pitch he had rigged had already failed. Up top, it was becoming a waterfall. What he didn't know: that water would reach the rope before he did. Ray was 60 meters up when the waterfall found him, the rope hissing under his ascenders, carabiners clanking against the wall. The spray thickened, then it hammered. Panic hit on schedule. Ray fought it down. He kept climbing, because there was no other direction that ended anywhere but here. Now watch the numbers, because this is the part that decides everything. 60 meters up, he climbed a meter every 20 seconds. At 90 meters, soaked and shaking, it was a meter every 40. At 110, his hands stopped closing all the way. 1 meter a minute, with a wet crack of spray bursting on his helmet. The pit was 179. Dana, waiting on the floor out of the spray, read the story through the rope. It stopped feeding upward. She shouted. The waterfall ate her voice whole. Ray hung at 115 meters, in the loudest cold in America, and did the brave, methodical thing. He rigged his backup loop, locked his ascenders, and clipped himself to wait out a flood pulse that was not going to pass. Hypothermia at that exposure kills in under 2 hours. He knew that number. He had taught it. What Dana did next would decide whether 1 caver died in Ellison's or 2. She did not climb into the water. She ran the floor passage to the dry secondary rope, prusicked 179 meters on the far wall, 2 hours of climbing, and came over the lip at 6 with her hands bleeding inside her gloves. Her radio call went out at 6:20. The regional cave rescue team reached the lip by 9 with a haul rig and a warming crew. A rescuer named Cole Danner descended into the spray with a harness sling and a bottle of hot glucose water. He reached Ray at 11, 4.5 hours after the rope stopped. He clipped him, wrapped him, and called the hall. The team raised a silent, rigid man through the waterfall, a meter at a time, while Dana counted every one of them out loud at the lip. Ray Bolter died of hypothermia on the rope sometime after 9, still clipped, still upright, his backup rigging textbook perfect to the last knot. The coroner's report gave the water 12 degrees and the exposure 5 hours, and ruled it in 2 words: cold water. He was 115 meters up when they reached him, and 64 short of the rim. The investigation took 9 weeks and changed the rules. The State Grotto now closes Fantastic Pit to descents on any day with rain inside 12 hours of the forecast, and the rescue took 41 people, 11 hours, and 1 name onto a plaque at the trailhead. Dana still climbs. The deepest freefall drop in America still runs its small stream beside the rope. And if you ever stand at that lip in dry weather, you will hear it. Quiet, patient, 60 stories of warning. Swildon's hole is the first cave that half of Britain's cavers ever enter. A modest hole under a stone hut in a sheep field. On October 2nd, 2022, Petra Boss went in alone to photograph the streamway below Sump 1. The water gauge at the entrance read safe. Petra was 35, strong, deliberate, 12 years underground, the kind of caver who had taught rescue practice in this exact system and logged over 60 trips through it. Her husband knew her call-out time by heart. Out by 6, phone by 7. Understand how this cave works because it decides everything. A live stream runs down its throat and the route crosses Sump 1, a wet U-bend you pass in one held breath. Thousands of cavers make that dip every year. Her trip went in clean and easy. She passed the U-bend at noon, shot her photographs in the tall rift beyond. An hour of good light and steady hands, and turned for home at 1, ahead of schedule, camera clipped to her chest in its dry bag. One thing changes everything here. After heavy rain, the stream can rise 30 centimeters an hour. The ducts close, and the passage becomes a room with 2 locked doors. At the Sump pool, that is the moment the trip stopped being routine. The water was brown. Foam spun on it. The duct she had passed at noon had sealed shut, because a cell of thunderstorms had parked over the Mendips an hour after she went under. What she didn't know, the same pulse was already closing the high route behind her. She backtracked fast. The far duct had sealed too. The rift was flooding. She was trapped. No way out. Between 2 drowned doors, with a live stream rising through her room. And this is where you need to watch the water, because the water is the whole story now. At 2 o'clock, the ledge she stood on had 40 centimeters of airspace above the stream, and the water ran the color of strong tea. By 3, 30 centimeters, and her spare light went into a chest pocket zipped against the spray. By 4, the water found her boots on the highest shelf in the passage, and the roar in the rift had gone from noise to weather. Petra did what she had taught others to do. She wedged herself into the highest alcove, clipped her light to drip dry, and made herself small around her own core heat. The cave holds 10 degrees. Wet, still, and cold, a body loses the argument in hours not days. Her watch said 6, call-out time. That number would turn out to be the last one she needed, with a scrape of grit as she shifted. Now they know. Then she clicked the lamp off, hissing breath through cupped hands for warmth, and counted the water by sound. By 8, the airspace over the stream had slipped to 20 centimeters. 7 came and went above her. Her husband called the club at 10 past. The club called the Mendip rescue wardens at past. By 9, the first team was at the stone hut in the rain, reading the swollen gauge by headlamp, and the number told them the truth. Nobody was walking out of that streamway. This would be a diving job. At 11, rescue divers Ellen Shaw and Marcus Reed forced Sump 1 against the current. They hauled a line, a spare mask, and the sealed flask of hot sugar water through the U-bend into the flooded rift. Their light broke Petra's black water at 11:15, 11 hours after the doors had locked. "You do not forget a light like that," she said later. "You spend your life switching it on for other people." They warmed her for 40 minutes, masked her, and pulled her through the sump on the line. One held breath after 11 hours of holding everything else. Petra Voss survived with mild hypothermia and 2 numb feet. The medics at the stone hut recorded her core temperature at 34 degrees and released her the next afternoon. The rescue report logged 22 personnel, 2 divers, and 11 hours trapped between 2 sumps, and the warden's review changed nothing because she had done everything right and the weather had done everything wrong. 22 rescuers for 1 held breath. That is the arithmetic of a flooded cave. The gauge at the entrance got a second, larger sign. She photographs floods now from the surface and teaches the same lesson every autumn. The first cave you ever enter is still a cave. The spring at Font Estramar runs water so blue it stains your dive light, and cold enough to sting bare skin. On May 5th, 2023, Iris Calloway surfaced from it 61 minutes early, out of a dive that still demanded 8 more hours underwater. A surfacing that, by every decompression table ever printed, should not have been possible to survive. Iris was 27 years old, a technical diver who had trained 4 years for depth and logged 200 cave dives. She had a habit her instructor loved. She wrote her deco plan on 2 slates, 1 for each wrist. Her team called her the accountant, and her mother, who never once watched her descend, called her every Sunday night instead. Font Estramar is a spring at the foot of the French Pyrenees that pours blue water out of a shaft divers have chased past 260 meters and never bottomed. Here is what you need to understand about deep dives there. The dive itself is short. The exit is the long part. Go to 75 meters for 20 minutes, and you owe the water roughly 3 hours of staged decompression stops on the way up. A ceiling made of mathematics. Break it, and the nitrogen in your own blood boils. The dive went in flawless at 9, 75 meters, 21 minutes on the bottom, a survey line rebelayed, her gauges agreeing with both wrist slates the whole way. She started up on schedule, unhurried, with every number on her plan showing green. At 50 meters, that is the moment the dive stopped being arithmetic, because the old abandoned line that haunts the shaft wall snagged her fin and manifold, and the tangle failed her first 3 attempts to clear it. What she didn't know, the snag had also cracked open her wing's inflator, and her buoyancy was bleeding away while she cut. 4 minutes burned, then 7. The knife slipped once. She was stuck. still sinking slow. And this is the part that decides everything. Every minute spent at 50 meters was quietly adding to the ceiling above her, the debt compounding while she paid nothing. Watch her gas do the counting. She had planned the exit on 90 bar. The tangle cost her 30. The buoyancy leak cost 11 more. By the time the last strand parted with a clean snap, her ceiling had grown past 8 hours of stops, and her tanks held 90 minutes. You cannot breathe 8 hours out of 90 minutes. Iris did the brutal triage her training demanded. That choice would cost her 3 days inside a steel tube, and it was still the best one on the menu. She rose to her first stop, hung there, and started skipping the deepest segments of her own plan, trading invisible damage later for breathable gas now, gauge needles hissing toward the red. At 6 meters, on her last 100 liters, she wrote 3 words on her wrist slate for whoever found it. Bent, call chamber, and let go of the ceiling with 61 minutes of mathematics unpaid. Her support diver, Theo Marshall, had her weights off before her mask was, read the slate, and made the call from the water. The nearest hyperbaric chamber was in Perpignan, 11 minutes by helicopter. She stayed conscious, breathing oxygen flat on the spring's stone apron, while her own blood started to sparkle. The joint pain arrived in the helicopter, elbows first, then knees, then a marching ant's prickle down both arms. Divers call it getting bent, and this is why. Nitrogen bubbles were forming in her joints and pressing on her nerves, exactly as the tables promised they would. Iris Calloway survived. The chamber at Perpignan took her to the pressure of 18 meters and held her there through 3 recompression sessions, 19 hours of treatment over 3 days, and discharged her with full feeling in both hands, alive, off a profile the tables score as dead. The physician's report credited the oxygen, the 11-minute flight, and the slate. The club's investigation ran 6 pages, ruled the abandoned line the cause, and had it cut out of the shaft by volunteer divers that same summer. 400 meters of it. Iris recovered fully. 19 hours of chamber treatment, 3 days in the hospital at Perpignan, feeling restored in both hands. She dives again, deeper now, with a line cutter on each shoulder, teaching a surfacing that should not have been possible.
If you dive deep enough, long enough, you learn her lesson. The water always collects its debt. Your job is to choose the currency.